Today, we are jumping into the epic and honestly, pretty surprising story of the Arabic language. It's a journey that doesn't start where you might think, not with grand empires or holy books, but with these mysterious carvings on desert rocks. And it takes us all the way to the complex challenges the language faces in our world right now. All right, so let's start with a little pop quiz. Take a look at these two pieces of writing. On the right, you'll probably recognize the beautiful flowing script of the Qur'an. But what about that inscription on the left? I mean, it looks like a completely different language, right? So which one is actually Arabic? Believe it or not, the answer is they're both Arabic. Yep, the script on the left is an ancient form of written Arabic, a direct ancestor to the language we know today. They're just separated by more than 1,000 years of history. And right there, that single image tells you that the story of Arabic is way older and a whole lot more complex than most people ever realize. This timeline really puts that long history into perspective. I mean, just look at the starting point. The earliest inscriptions we have, like that Semitic script we just saw, they date all the way back to the 8th century BCE. Then you have to jump forward over 1,000 years to 328 CE to find the first inscription that looks, recognizably modern. And it's not until the 7th century CE that the script finally gets standardized with the Qur'an. That is an immense, sprawling history packed into one single language. Okay, so this brings us to the first chapter of our story, this ancient and, to most of us, totally unreadable form of Arabic. What exactly was it? Well, these early writings are known as the ancient North Arabian scripts. Now, here's the crucial thing to get. These weren't different languages. They were different alphabets used to write the same spoken language. Think of it this way. It's kind of like writing English with our normal Latin alphabet versus trying to write it with, say, Greek letters. The sounds and the words are the same, but the symbols on the page look completely different. But while these different scripts were being carved onto rocks, the language itself was being perfected somewhere else, not in writing, but in sound, in speech, in art. So, in the pre-Islamic era, Arabic culture was mostly an oral one. And the absolute highest form of art, it was poetry. At these huge annual fairs like Souk Okaz, poets from rival, even warring tribes would compete. Their words were their weapons, carrying more weight than swords. The best of the best poems, the legendary mu'allaqat, or hanging odes, were supposedly hung on the Kaaba in Mecca for everyone to see. And through this incredible tradition, a super sophisticated, high literary form of Arabic developed that all the tribes could understand. This became the direct ancestor of what we now call classical Arabic. And it was this refined, poetic language that was about to get launched onto the world stage by one single transformative event that would change its destiny forever. The revelation of the Qur'an in the 7th century had this massive threefold impact that just changed everything. First up, it standardized the script. It locked in one single alphabet, adding dots and vowel markings to make it readable for everyone. Second, the spread of Islam basically globalized the language, carrying it all the way from Spain to China. And third, it preserved the grammar. To protect the holy text from being misread, scholars wrote down all the rules, effectively freezing its classical form in time. And this process preserved a language of almost unbelievable richness. Just how rich are we talking? Well, the classical Arabic lexicon has over 400,000 root words. To put that number in perspective, just compare it to English, which has around 100,000 root words. That just shows you the sheer depth and precision of the language. This massive vocabulary made it the perfect vehicle for that incredible explosion of science, philosophy, and literature during the Islamic Golden Age. But this glorious past brings us to a much, much more complicated present. Because after being the language of a global superpower, Arabic today is facing a profound crisis of identity. And this crisis, well, it has some really deep roots. Back in the 19th century, colonial powers totally understood that language was the heart of a culture. This quote from Lord Dufferin, a British official in Egypt, says it all. He basically said that undermining classical Arabic was the key to controlling the population. By attacking the language, they were attacking the entire culture and history that it carried. And the legacy of that strategy is still with us. This chart, which shows a breakdown of weekly school hours in some modern curricula, really visualizes the problem. Just look at that imbalance. The time spent on foreign languages can be more than double the time spent on Arabic itself. This is creating a generation that's often more fluent in English or French than in their own mother tongue. The language also faces this huge internal challenge called diglossia. Basically, it's the split between two versions of the language. You have the high formal Arabic of books and the news, that's called fusha, and then you have the dozens of local spoken dialects people use every day, which are called Amiya. Fusha is the descendant of that classical language, but Amiya is the language of daily life. This creates a real disconnect, where the language you speak at home feels totally separate from the language you learn in school. So you put all this together, the external pressure from the past, this internal division, and it has led to what one scholar, Dr. Mahmoud Athawadi, calls a linguistic psychological disability. It's this cultural inferiority complex where speaking a foreign language is seen as a sign of being modern or prestigious, while mastering your own language gets neglected. So where does all this leave one of the world's most historic languages? Well, it leaves it at a pretty critical crossroads. We've seen its incredible journey, right? From those tribal inscriptions scratched on desert rocks, to the unifying force of poetry, to the global language of an empire built on faith and science. Today, that very same living, breathing language is fighting to define its place in a world that's dominated by other tongues and brand new technologies. The story of Arabic is, above all, a story of resilience and transformation. It has adapted and evolved for nearly 3,000 years. So the question, really, for its speakers and for the world is this: for a language that has spanned millennia, what will its next chapter be?